أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي فضلنا على كثير من عباده المؤمنين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق ولا يكونوا كالذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبل فطال عليهم الأمد فقست قلوبهم وكثير منهم فاسقون صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Surah Hadid, the surah about the iron, indeed is a surah worth contemplation, worth thinking about, because it has very important messages that we need to remember and we tend to forget in our daily lives. It talks about the day of judgment and how the manzar will be and how a group of people who are mu'mineen will be walking, and some of them who are mu'mineen in quotes and some of them who are true mu'mineen, and how they get separated and they say, but we were together, and they realize the difference when the day of judgment comes, when the munafiq is being separated from the mu'min. Something we really need to think about. A few verses after this event which is mentioned in Surah Hadid, Allah asks us in a very different way about bringing iman and showing it practically. You know, Allah uses different languages or different methods or different, can we say, approaches in telling us to bring iman. Sometimes Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, aminu. It's a command, believe. And then Allah says in some places, Inna Allah ashtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum bi anna lahumul jannah. I'm buying from you yourselves. Bring iman, I'm going to sell you Jannah. And then sometimes Allah mentions it like this. And this type of language, it really pinches the heart. You really need to have an open heart and understand how Allah is using His words to talk about us bringing iman in this verse. Allah says, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبَهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Isn't it about time that those who say they believe, or those who believe, they should now have khushu in their heart when Allah's dhikr is being done? Isn't it about time? Look at the ni'mat around us. Look at how many proof Allah has shown me as an individual on what is right and what is wrong. In my own life, how many miracles have happened on me. And after all these multiple things, every moment that shaitan comes and puts something on the other side, I forget everything Allah has done for me. Isn't it about time that the mu'mineen look at the world around them and see the dhulm that is happening and say, I need to be able to feel the khushu towards Allah. I need to forget this false world that I'm living in, where everything seems so show-like. It doesn't matter. It's just a false picture in front of us of this world being glamorous, of this world being worth it, of this world millions of shillings and millions of praises and millions of things that make us feel good for a short time. When will we realize that this is really just a game? When will we realize that Allah is waiting for us? Isn't it about time, you who believe, that you bring khushu in your hearts? It's a very touchy way. It's like the way a parent comes and says to a child who has been very, very mischievous. And that parent keeps giving with love, and the child continues to have mischief. The parent keeps giving with love, and the child keeps doing mischief and disobeying. And there comes a time when the child has gotten everything he could from the parent, still, when the child is still not yet understanding that his parent was worth a lot more than the izzat that he gave the parent comes and says, isn't it about time after all this that you realize my worth? Allah is using these words on us. أَلَمْ يَأْنِي لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Individually to me, isn't it about time that I should realize that I should have khushu of Allah when Allah is being remembered? I should feel khushu. So the question now comes, what is khushu? What is khushu? And the answer when it comes to what is khushu is from the ulama. When you look at the chapter in Adabus Salat by Imam Khomeini, when he's talking about Salah, he talks about khushu. He says khushu is a very different feeling. It cannot be described by words. It's a mixture, but it requires three things. It requires the first thing. We always think khushu is like khawf, fear. Ayatollah Khomeini has not mentioned fear in these three things. He says the first thing about khushu is complete submission to Allah. Complete and utter submission to Allah, and that is mixed with love and fear. Love and that, or hope and fear. But love is there. In other words, when you're looking at the status of ibadah, you see a person who is praying because he has to. A person who is fasting because he has to. If Allah did not make it wajib, I probably wouldn't have done it. This is the attitude. That is not yet where Allah wants us to reach. We don't have His ma'rifah. We don't have His khushu. Then there comes a level of, as you improve on understanding who Allah is. How do you understand who Allah is? Do I have to go to Hawza? Do I have to understand what is the deepest of the knowledge in science? No. The easiest way is start with looking at yourself. Man arafa nafsa, faqad arafa rabba. Look at yourself. Understand how meager I am. That if someone puts a 5 or 2 ml syringe of air that I'm breathing into my vein, I will die. How meager I am. I have no value. I can just disappear in a minute. You understand this and you say, if I am nothing, then why was a nothing created? To recognize what everything is, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Now you start the journey of the love of Ahlul Bayt and the love of Allah. You know, we are in that era where we think logic prevails on everything. If I don't understand it, doesn't make sense. My dear, if that was the case, then in the first few verses of Surah Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the muttaqeen, He says, Alladina yu'minuna bil ghaib. What they can't see, they believe in it. It means that there is that thing that doesn't make sense. An angel, if I tell you what an angel is described as, it will not make sense to us, but we believe in it. And when you go that route and you improve on your iman because of the ma'rifah of Allah improving, what happens? You increase in your love of Allah. When you love Allah, now forget this logic. You've understood Allah exists. You've got the aqidah that Allah is there, He created us and everything. Now the love of Allah comes. Now the emotions fill us. And then you realize that love makes you obey Allah, not because you are being forced like that person who's saying, I'm praying namaz because Allah made it wajib, otherwise I'll get to Jahannam. You now love Allah. You want to make Allah happy by His core. You want Him to look at you and say, this person is praying for me. I love him. That's what your goal is. The happiness of Allah, the closeness to Allah, it becomes important because we really start loving Allah. That is what we have to aim at. And the closer you get, the more ma'rifah you get, the more khushu' you get. You find a mother waiting for a child who is coming after so many years from university, says, I'm going to make his favorite dish. Oh, my dear, do you know this is not good for his health? No, but he loves this dish. I'm going to do everything possible to make it as memorable so when he comes home, he feels my love. How do we make Allah feel our love for him? How do we submit to Allah? This is khushu'. When we say there's no force in religion, that force in religion, when you're talking about it, when you reach a stage, you don't dare even, like when a father and a son are sitting next to each other, and the father the son has got a haya, a feeling that my father is near me, I can't do this, I can't stretch out my legs. Or if I smoke cigarettes, I can't smoke in front of my father. What is this? That feeling is that feeling of a level of khushu'. This, Allah says, isn't it about time? Not that you pray namaz for me or that you fast for me. That if you are saying you believe, then show me the khushu' that you have for me. Let us reflect within ourselves. If I truly believe, my belief translates into khushu'. Very interesting point I found in this book, Adabu Salat of Imam Khomeini, when he's talking about this khushu', he mentions this. He says, when shaitan was told, فَخْرُجْ مِنْهَا فَإِنَّكَ رَجِيمٌ, get out. You are abolished from Jannah. You have to be punished. Shaitan says, when he was asked why you did not do sajda, he answers Allah, خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. And when he was told when he's going to be punished, what did he say? Give me respite, give me time, until when? Till the day of judgment. So he says, look at this scenario. Shaitan believes in Allah. He knows Allah exists. Shaitan knows with all certainty that Allah exists. Correct? Shaitan knows with all certainty that Allah created him. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ. I was created by you, Allah. You are my khaliq. He knows with all certainty that there will be a day of judgment. Give me respite till. So what is the difference between a person who knows these facts and a person who has belief? A lot of times we think, I have no doubt that Allah exists. Full stop. I'm successful. Wait. Even shaitan has no doubt that Allah exists. I can't be at the level of shaitan because where is shaitan going to be? Where is the belief? Where is that heart of mine? Where is that belief turning into khushu', which is submission? A level where if a person hears that Allah loves something, he does it. He doesn't ask, give me the proof and the resource and show me and what is better and is there a shortcut. He doesn't ask that. He's ready to submit because Allah loves it, full stop. When Allah swears by something in the Quran, it suddenly becomes important. If Allah says, وَالشَّفْعِ وَالْوِتْرِ, in Surah Fajr, when Allah says, وَالشَّفْعِ وَالْوِتْرِ, what are these? Two salahs. Where are you praying? When you recite Surah Shafa, the salah of Shafa and salat of Witr? Allah is swearing by them. It's important to Allah. Is it important to me? Is it important to me? Do I have khushu' or am I just a Muslim? The Arabs came to the Prophet. قالت الأعراب آمنا. They came and they said, I believe, I'm a mu'min. Immediately Allah tells the Prophet what? Tell them, You don't believe. Don't say you are mu'mineen, but say you are Muslimin. Why? وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلِ الْإِيمَانُ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. Allah is saying that in their hearts, Iman has not yet entered. They had already said, we believe. They already believe in, they already know Allah exists. They know Allah is my Raziq. They know Allah is my Khaliq. But Allah says, tell them, don't say you are mu'mineen yet. You don't have, Iman has not entered your heart. We think, oh, if it's logical and I'm doing it, I'm on the right. What about my heart? How attached is it to Allah? How attached it is to Ahlul Bayt? So when you talk about khushu, it is very different from what we are currently practicing as Muslims. Many times we think we are done because we prayed our namaz and we've done our wajibat. If it doesn't translate into khushu, Allah is not yet happy because we have not yet reached our target. We have to work on being able to bring ourselves, to purify ourselves into actually understanding Allah more, and we feel it in khushu, and then the khushu leads to submission. And so submission means that I leave the ma'asiyah of Allah. If I hear that Allah does not like me to do something, Allah does not like me to hear ghiba, doesn't like me to tell lies, doesn't like me to maybe take money of riba, I stop. It didn't make sense because riba is like business. I know it's almost, I stop. Not because it makes sense, because Allah does not like it. Full stop. It comes from the heart, not from the mind. Let us think from this verse how much really we are and what level of iman. Iman level translates into khushu level. If you don't have, if I have no khushu, if I have no level of that love and submission, and I am saying I believe, I'm not a believer. I'm lying to myself. They think, يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. They think they are lying to Allah and the people who believe. وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُم وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They don't know that they are lying to themselves even. We have to make sure that this iman is translating to khushu. If someone tells me that this is how it's supposed to be done, I have to understand it and do it out of the love of Allah. This is very important from this verse. The second thing that this verse talks about, when he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the khushu an takhsha qulubuhum li dhikri Allahi wa ma nazala min al-haq. From the thing that you remember Allah, from the remembrance of Allah, and what came down in terms of haqq. When the ulama were discussing what are these two things, some ulama said that dhikr of Allah and is in its own, and nazala min al-haqq is the Quran. And some ulama say no. The dhikr of Allah is Quran. And what came down from Allah, وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ, in some tafasir, is also Quran. So they are both talking about Quran. So now let's go with that. I ask you, why would Allah repeat it 2 times? أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Why? The things that remember Allah, that make you remember Allah, the remembrance of Allah, and nazala min haqq. Why 2? When I started contemplating on this, I started looking at the word haqq. And when you look at the word haqq, you realize something, that there is a hadith of the Holy Prophet where he says, Al-aliyu ma'al haqq, wal-haqqu ma'ali. So what came to my mind is there is a Quran which is ma nazala min al-haqq, which is the Qur'an Samit, a Qur'an Natiq, and we have Dhikrillah, which is Qur'an Samit. So both of them are mentioned in this sense because both of them are manifestations of the dhikr of Allah. Even when you hear the names of Ahlul Bayt and see what they do, you understand in awe. Out of the love of them, you love Allah. You become closer to Allah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. The last part of this verse is talking about a warning. Allah has talked to you about khushu, isn't it about time? And then He tells you, when you hear this haqq, whether it is about Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam or the Quran, you feel khushu. You love them and you become in awe. And then He says, I'm warning you. So what's the warning? He says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِ فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ فَقَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. And don't become like those who are amongst the Ahl Kitab before you. Don't be like them. A lot of times we think, we should be a little bit more understanding and and become close to them and compromise, and be careful. There are many things they are doing. We have to understand that we are on the right and be proud of our religion. If you are standing here and a person comes and tells you, are you sure you are on the right? You say, actually, maybe you are also a little bit on the right. You are in the wrong place. Look in your heart. We need to understand that we are not supposed to be and try and copy them because what we have is the best. We need to be confident. That is when we will spread the message. How will we spread the message if we don't believe it to a level where we can tell a person, this is the right way? Even if you are going on a road and you meet a person who is not confident whether the best place route is right or left, he says, I think if you went right, because you look like a person who likes to go on the right side. It'll probably be a bit longer, but if you went left, it's a bit shorter, but I think that side has, you will not know. You will ask a second person. Why? Because he's not confident. How will we guide people towards the right religion if we are not confident of our religion? We have to be careful. And the point which Allah mentions about the Ahl Kitab here, which is extremely important, what did they do wrong? فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ. This verse, according to the tafasir, was revealed around 13-14 years after the start of Mab'ath, the message of Islam spreading. And therefore they said, at that time maybe the iman was a bit weak in some tafasir. But the ahadith from Imam Sadiq have told us that this فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ, that the time was taken advantage, it became too long, their time seemed too long for them. Time can be amad and can be zaman. Amad meaning that the same as zaman, but you are looking at it from the end of time. When your maqsad is the end of the time, you use the word amad. So فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ means that these people, when they were told, wait for it, they found it too long. The wait seemed too long. And because the wait seemed too long, فَقَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Their hearts became hard. This verse, very relevant for right now. Because our sixth Holy Imam mentions that this is actually talking of the last time. فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ is actually this time when we are feeling like it's so long. Why so much zulm is happening and our Imam hasn't come? Why this is taking so long? But it's so important that we don't let this feeling that it's taking too long make us go into despair and make us forget Allah and say, bas, there's no hope anymore. If this much can be done, it's impossible for it to be undone. We have to keep reminding ourselves, إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. These people, they see it long, but this is a short time. Wait when Imam will come with his intiqam and we come and join you, you will see where we will be. We have to have that constantly, that if Imam comes today when I wake up in the morning, how am I going to take this revenge? أَيْنَ طَالِبُ بِدَمِ الْمَقْتُولِ بِكَرْبَلَا. He's coming. We should not think, okay, there's still time, there's still time. This there's still time makes your heart hard. When you think you have too much time, then you think, okay, let me leave this for later. You procrastinate. And then you become ghafil, you become used to this world and its deceptions surround you, and suddenly our heart becomes hard. And when that happens, وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ, that most people, amongst the people who did this, they became fasiq. What is fasiq? A fasiq is a person who does a guna while he knows it's a guna, and he does it in open. Openly defying Allah, you are a fasiq. If you know there is a rule that the adhan is being recited, namaz is there, we have to all go, and I say, I'm not going. Let's see what Allah will do. I might not say, let's see what Allah will do, but the moment I say, I'm not going, it means what? I'm defying. I'm a fasiq. This happens when your heart becomes hard. Your heart becomes hard according to this verse when you are thinking they have too much time left. We need to remember, today we are here remembering someone who has passed away, a mu'min. How sure am I it would not have been me? Do I have time? I have time? You can guarantee me that I'm going to be here 10 breaths away from now? You can guarantee? I don't have time. Soften the heart. Don't let that notion that I have too much time left, I'm only 20, I have until 90. Are you sure? We need to remember that this verse tells us a lot of things. Our current time. But the emotion I want us to feel from this verse. Allah is saying, Alam ya'ni lilladhina amanu an takhsha'a qulubuhum li dhikrillah. Tonight, we are here to remember the death of a mu'min who was a father to a mu'mina in our community. And the daughter and father relationship is very close. Whenever you remember a daughter and a father, you cannot help but remember Bibi Sakina alayha salam and her father Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What dhulm was not on this young child, this 4-year-old girl? What dhulm did she not have to go through for her to be able to allow Islam to reach us? Whether you look at the bellies of the camels where her stomach was being scrubbed against, and that led to the marks that when she died, the Ghassala said, who is this girl and how come she is so sick that she has marks all over her body? Or whether you are looking at her throat and you find that the neck was so tight that she could not answer Yazid when she was asked, who are you? Because the neck was pulling on her throat and the voice would not come out of her larynx. This Sakina, it is reported from some of the people who have recited the majlises of Imam Hussein before, that she is in the Zindan of Sham, and she comes to Imam Sajjad, her brother, and she says, oh Imam Sajjad, I want to ask you a question about ilm. The ilmi question I want to ask you is that what are the levels of thirst? Imam Sajjad looks at Bibi Sakina and says, why do you want to talk about this level of thirst? Leave this. He says, no, tell me the levels of thirst. I want to know. I'm asking you as the Imam of our time. Imam Sajjad says, if you want to know the levels of thirst, then oh Bibi Sakina, listen to me and I tell you the levels of thirst. When a person starts becoming thirsty, and the thirst reaches a level where the body can no longer bear it, and now the level of the volume of the blood goes down, then you find that when they are standing up from a sitting position, they start feeling dizzy and they get blackness in their eyes. Bibi Sakina stops Imam Sajjad. She says, oh my dear brother, I remember my brother Qasim on the day of Ashura, when he was going to the battlefield. He told me that, oh my dear sister Sakina, when I stand up from a sitting position, I feel dizzy and I see blackness in my eyes. Then he continues, he says, the second level of thirst is the level of thirst where your mouth becomes so dry that the tongue becomes like thorns. Even moving the tongue in the mouth becomes like a problem. She says, stop there, my dear brother. I remember my brother Ali Akbar when he came back from the battlefield and he asked my father for a drop of water, and my father did not have any water to give, and then my father removed out his very, very dry tongue, and my brother put his tongue on the tongue of my father. Immediately he pulled it and he said, this tongue is like thorns. He says, now let me tell you the third level of thirst. So the third level of thirst is when a person has no energy left in the body. You leave them on a hot ground of sand, and even when you ask them to open their mouth, they have no energy. Their mouth opens and closes like a fish out of the water. He says, I remember my brother Ali Asghar. Before the arrow hit his neck on the day of Ashura, my father put him on the ground of Karbala, on the hot ground of Karbala. He was opening his mouth slowly and closing it. He didn't have any energy. Then he says the fourth level of thirst and the last level of thirst is so high that now the body has no water left inside. The muscle mass inside has become finished. The skin of the body is touching the bone. Bibi Sakina stops her brother. She pulls up her sleeve. She says, oh my brother, look at my hand. There is no muscle left. It is only skin on bone. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Let us recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumin for whom we have gathered here in their majlis, and kul marhumin, and especially the marhumin of the shuhada in all the places of the Islamic world who have fought for the right cause. Al-Fatiha.